Good morning, everyone. I'm Maria Yurdi Kaplan, Executive Director of the Transbay Joint Powers Authority. On behalf of the TJPA, I would like to welcome everyone to this very historic occasion, the groundbreak of the first modern high-speed rail station in the United States. Today marks the culmination of a very long journey and an enormous amount of hard work by many people to make this day a reality. There were many challenges along the way, but we had a great vision, huge optimism, remained focused, and most importantly, had the ongoing support of the public to fulfill their expectations. And here is what we are delivering to the public starting today. The first new high-speed rail station in the country, the first modern regional bus station in more than 60 years. After more than 100 years, a downtown San Francisco train station, all in one modern landmark building designed by world-class architects and engineers that will be surrounded by new residents and new workers. This will be a 21st century building for a 21st century region and state, and a world-class building for a world-class city. I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of our speakers today and also recognize the countless number of people across the San Francisco Bay Area, California, and Washington, D.C. who work with us to make this happen. Many are here today and others in spirit. Thank you all. We made it. The Grand Central Station of the West Coast is starting construction. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce our first speaker, the chairman of our board, Nathaniel Ford. Nathaniel Ford serves as the chair of the Transbay Joint Powers Authority and executive director of the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency. Chairman Ford also sits on the Caltrain Board of Directors. He's been a strong supporter of the Transbay project since its arrival to San Francisco, and we are deeply grateful for his leadership and guidance. Chairman Ford.
Thank you, Maria. Well, good morning, everyone. And today is a great day, and we thank you for coming to our ceremony. And I say our ceremony because it took all of us to pull all of this together, all of our hard work. Those of you who contributed over the decades, a long effort to end up today culminating in a groundbreaking for our new Transbay Transit Center. There are many people that we should mention today and give a little bit of perspective in terms of how we got here. It was former Mayor Joseph Alioto, whose granddaughter, Supervisor Alioto Peer, is with us today, who championed one of the first studies of a future Transbay terminal with Caltrans. More than a decade later, under former Mayor Feinstein's tenure, the recommendation was made to extend Caltrain operations from 4th and Townsend to the Transbay terminal 1.3 miles away. After Loma Prieta, the earthquake in 1989, the terminal was determined to be unsafe. Under the Agnos and Jordan administrations, the city and state determined that the facility was seismically deficient. It was under former Mayor Willie Brown, who hired and placed his trust in our executive director, Maria Yurdi, to lead the Transbay effort. She created and has led this Transbay Joint Powers Authority to design, build, and operate a facility which we stand today on the ground to break. A key milestone in bringing us to this day was the transfer by the state of 12 acres of land to the TJPA and the city to help fund the new transit center. This agreement, signed during the Brown administration and championed at the state level by former Senate President John Burden, provides That agreement provides one of the largest funding contributions to this project and allows for the creation of new neighborhoods with hundreds of affordable housing units. Today, during the tenure of our mayor, Gavin Newsom, he has been an enthusiastic and effective advocate of the project since he was a supervisor representing District 2. We finally break ground today. This project would not have been possible without the numerous contributions from individuals, and in particular, our partners, our transportation partners, the City and County of San Francisco, the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency, the San Mateo County Transportation Authority, the San Francisco County Transportation Authority, the Alameda Contra Costa Transit District, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, the State of California, our state legislative delegation, the California High-Speed Rail Authority, and the United States Department of Transportation, the Federal Transportation Administration, the Federal Highway Administration, and the Federal Railroad Administration. We also have to thank President Obama and our Secretary Ray Lahood. They deserve special mention and recognition for the recent $400 million in ARRA funding that we have received. It is that funding and that award that has propelled us into construction with the rail levels which will ultimately serve both Caltrain and future high-speed rail. In addition, I also would like to thank the federal government for the $71 million that we have received as a San Francisco MTA. We've used that to develop jobs that have created over 800 hours of job hours, and also has allowed us to rank as the 4th leading agency in the nation for creating and retaining jobs. Going forward, we will remain steadfast and committed to working with our federal partners to improve transportation and workforce opportunities in the Bay Area. In that same vein, I would also like to thank and acknowledge our congressional delegation, Speaker Pelosi, Senator Feinstein, Senator Boxer, Congressman Miller. It's through their hard work and their contributions that we've been able to get to this day and have a successful Transbay project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our mayor, the mayor of San Francisco, Mayor Gavin Newsom. Mayor Newsom has led the way in creating jobs and stimulating the city's economic growth. Under his leadership, San Francisco has become a hub for clean technology, renewable energy, and green development. During his tenure, the Transbay program progressed from the planning stages to the start of construction. We thank our mayor for his strong support of the project and for all of his guidance. Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Maria. Thank you all. Welcome out here. A small crowd for San Francisco. This is rather extraordinary. Nat did all the thank yous. God forbid that I repeat every single name he mentioned, and you got another 6 or 7 speakers coming up. But I do want to get to the thanks after I create a little bit of context, because I think there's really 5 things we're celebrating here today. You recall, wasn't that long ago, and it shouldn't be just a distant memory because I believe it will be part of our proud future, that in the 1990s we saw a huge economic growth in the Bay Area, not just here in San Francisco. Remember, we saw a growth of about 15% of our employment base, but we saw in that growth something rather alarming and remarkable. Don't forget, it was just a few years ago where we saw a 200% increase in traffic congestion in and around the Bay Area. It was about the time that Steve Heminger and others came forward with that MTC report that showed in some likely scenarios that may need to be adjusted slightly, but I'm still optimistic, that in the next 25 years or so, we'd see employment growth of another 1 to 1.2 million new people moving into this region. The question was at the time, and the question was should be again today, what do you do to accommodate that growth? How do you compete? We're not obviously well positioned if we're just focused on the old ways of doing things, building more freeways and assuming that's going to accommodate enough cars. We had to think differently. And we're very blessed that one of the things we're celebrating in that context is the visionary leadership of leaders that have come and gone that have established a framework of transit first, that recognize the jobs housing linkage, that recognize that density with transit near and around jobs is our fate and future, that if we're going to continue to grow and continue to prosper, we've got to focus on smart growth. And really, this is the ultimate manifestation of smart growth, because the first and substantive thing we're celebrating is this $1.2 billion first phase transit center that links 11 transit agencies. A lot of you are out there and up on the stage. 11 transit agencies from 8 counties throughout the Bay Area, 1 million square feet right behind me, replacing this 1939 structure that had its day, but clearly is no longer that shining example. The second thing we're celebrating that was noted by Maria and Nat Ford, is a brand new neighborhood. 2,600 housing units, 35% of them below market. 3 million square feet of new commercial space. And when we get done with the great leadership and partnership of Pele Clark Pele, we're going to be talking about not just the Transamerica icon or the beautiful Golden Gate Bridge or that great new eastern span that we'll see soon on the Bay Bridge, but we're talking about a new icon in San Francisco and postcards around the world, the tallest new tower on the west coast of the United States that will anchor this new neighborhood with real focus on street-level vibrancy, outdoor cafes, expanded sidewalks, tree-lined boulevards, and outdoor merchants. That's what it's all about, connecting sense of community, connecting sense of place. The third thing we're celebrating, and that's why Mayor Pringle is here, and that's why a lot of folks are ecstatic, as Nat just said, about this ERA dollars, this $400 million, is we're going to be building a box, not just any box, a box that will accommodate something that is arguably a generation overdue. My gosh, I am sick and tired of hearing about how wonderful the transportation system is in France and Japan, and have you been to Shanghai, or do you know what they're doing in Beijing? Well, finally, California is going to get it right with this new high-speed rail, and that northern terminus will happen here. And this project that Governor Schwarzenegger and David Crane and other governors have talked about is finally going to start taking shape. So that's the third big thing. The fourth thing we're celebrating goes to really the first point I was making, is leadership, stewardship. Nat mentioned a lot of them. John Burton, incredible work. You know, we just simply wouldn't be here. Willie Brown, who's here in spirit, and trust me, he'll be here a little later. Don Parada and his extraordinary work. Members of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors who have come and gone, mayors going back to Alioto, to Feinstein, to others, to the incredible leadership I noted of Caltrans, their former director, their current director, to Steve Heminger, MTC, to all the folks that you see up here, but in particular to Secretary Ray Lahood, who stepped up to the plate, that followed through on his commitments and helped steer a significant amount of funds our way, to Senator Barbara Boxer as well, who's proven it's not just words that create jobs, but it's follow-through, faith and works, as we say in church. It's about the leadership in absentia of that former mayor, Dianne Feinstein, and our great Senator, Dianne Feinstein. It's the good work of George Miller. It's the work, again, of all the folks that Nat Ford mentioned. But let me conclude in terms of that recognition by saying that at the end of the day, all that would have mattered a lot, but simply not enough. And you know this town, we don't like running the 90-yard dash. We want to cross that finish line at peak. Well, the only way we cross that finish line at peak, the only reason we're here and we'll be back in 2017 celebrating this completion, is because of that local politician who just happens to be a representative from Congress, who moved her way up and became Speaker of the House. A big round of applause for Nancy Pelosi and her stewardship, her leadership, her constancy, her faith to this project. We're really celebrating her and her delegation. Final point. There's a guy with a hat on behind me, Mike Terrio. He represents the building trades. There's a lot of reason to be happy about what this project represents for all the reasons I mentioned. But now more than ever, the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 issue is jobs. And that's what we're also celebrating today. Real jobs, tens of thousands of jobs that will begin anew with the demolition and the reconstruction. And that, indeed, is something to celebrate. Thank you all very much for being on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now I would like to introduce Mayor Pringle and Chairman of the California High-Speed Rail Authority, one of our partners and collaborators on the Transbay project. Anaheim Mayor Kurt Pringle, Chairman of the California High-Speed Rail Authority, was appointed to the board by Governor Schwarzenegger. He took over as chairman a year ago, and in that time has helped usher the authority into a new phase. winning the largest share of Federal Recovery Act funds in the country, hiring a new world-class CEO, Roland Van Ark, and moving the project from planning to implementation. He is a former Speaker of the California State Assembly and since 2002 has been mayor of the 10th largest city in the state, which, about 407 miles to the south of where we stand today, will be where Phase 1 of California's high-speed rail system will terminate. Mayor Pringle.
Thank you very much, Maria, Mr. Secretary, Madam Speaker, Madam Senator, and all the fine distinguished folks. I did notice that Willie Brown showed up when I came to the podium. Just the way those things work. And Mr. Mayor, it's so nice to be in your city. I was reflecting just now while listening to your fine mayor as his city is preparing to break ground on this ambitious intermodal transit center, that I too am a mayor of a city looking to break ground on a large-scale intermodal transit center. And Mayor Newsom, I don't believe that's the only similarity we share, because we are committed to building a high-speed rail system in California, and it is with great pride that I stand here as this breaking of ground demonstrates the beginning of that system that one day we'll all be riding and enjoying. In Anaheim, a little more than 400 miles south of here, we'll break ground next year on our Anaheim Regional Intermodal Transit Center, known as Arctic. So I know a project like this, like the Transbay Transit Center, takes a tremendous amount of leadership and vision to undertake, follow through, and see built. And of course, San Francisco is a city with a long tradition of leadership and vision. Projects like these, if done right, have the potential to truly transform a city and to transform the quality of life so many residents of the region who can reinvest how they travel to and from work, to and from a city for a night out, and to or from a region for a long weekend. At the end of the day, transportation is about moving Californians efficiently from one place to another so that they can spend more time not sitting in traffic, but spending time with their family and friends and doing the things that they enjoy. And for most of us, that's spending a day or a weekend in San Francisco. That is the aim of the California High-Speed Rail Project, to move Californians safely, efficiently, and affordably from one metropolitan area of our state to another. And that is another point of which San Francisco has shown leadership. Although the California High-Speed Rail Project will not be selling tickets from Los Angeles to San Francisco for another 10 years, the Transbay Joint Powers Authority incorporated the needs of our train system in its plans for this transit center. We're pleased that the Transbay Joint Powers Authority has considered the future development of a high-speed rail system in planning for this intermodal transit center. We're also pleased that the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act is making this project possible. As you know, California won by far the largest share in the nation of Recovery Act funds, and we have to make sure we thank the Secretary for that. But we also certainly thank the President for that and his vision in including high-speed rail in the stimulus program, as well as the great leadership of Speaker Pelosi, Senator Boxer, Senator Feinstein, and our California congressional delegation, and our tremendous partners at the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Federal Railroad Administration. We'll be looking to all of you for continued help to make high-speed rail a reality for the nation, and particularly here in California. I look forward to the day in the not-too-distant future when I can board a train downtown in my city and arrive less than 3 hours downtown in yours. And on behalf of the California High-Speed Rail Authority and my board members who are present here today, David Crane and Rod Deardan, and our new CEO, Roland Van Ark, we join in celebrating this great day and this great accomplishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pringle. And now representing the state of California on behalf of Governor Schwarzenegger is David Crane. David Crane is the governor's economic advisor, and I do want to give a special thank you to the state of California for transferring the land that has made all of this possible. David.
Thank you, Maria. As a passionate supporter of high-speed rail, I can guarantee you that Governor Schwarzenegger would love to be here today. But he's in Sacramento, focused on the budget reforms that are needed to protect the funding for precisely the kind of infrastructure that we're celebrating here today. So he sent me here instead, not least because he knows I'm a San Franciscan who commutes to his work in Sacramento by rail, but also because he knows that the sustainable economy of the 21st century simply cannot be built without 21st century transportation systems, such as high-speed rail, and 21st century transportation terminals, such as the Transbay Terminal. For California's economy to grow without jeopardizing the environments and the lifestyles that drew so many of us here in the first place, millions of people must be able to travel around the state without gridlock and without impairing the environment. It's great that the construction we're celebrating today will create desperately needed jobs right now. But it'll be even greater that finishing that construction will sustain and create jobs that will last for decades. Of course, there will always be critics of bold visions like these. After all, even Abraham Lincoln was criticized for the Transcontinental Railroad. But once Californians experience the joy, the beauty, and yes, the productivity of traveling rail throughout the Golden State of California, those critics will no longer be heard. So on behalf of the governor, I want to congratulate Speaker Pelosi, Senator Boxer, Secretary Lahood, Congressman Miller, Mayor Newsom, High Speed Rail Authority Chairman Kurt Pringle, Chairman Ford, and Executive Director Ayerdi on this wonderful occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, David. The Transbay project will serve 9 counties, including Southern California, someday, and it serves 11 different transit operators, including the East Bay. Representing the East Bay with us today is Congressman Miller. Congressman George Miller may be best known as chairman of the House Education and Labor Committee and as a leading national advocate on education, labor, the economy, and the environment. But back here at home, the lifelong East Bay resident has been a longtime supporter of the Transbay project and the affordable housing component of the program. Many of his constituents commute to downtown San Francisco daily, and I know we both look forward to the day when the passengers will arrive at the new transit center. I'd like to thank Congressman Miller for his strong support of the project over the years. Congressman.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm here really not just representing the East Bay, but also the rest of the California delegation of the Bay Area. We understand, while this project is in San Francisco, it adds value to the entire economy of the Bay Area, to the employment opportunities, to the opportunities of families to come and to locate throughout the Bay Area and know that they will be able to take advantage of a modern, integrated, intermodal transportation system. And as we look at the data, the two things families are interested in and businesses are interested in is what is the education system like and what is the transportation system like? Because that's what their employers are going to be concerned about, and that's what employers are going to be concerned about on behalf of their families. And with a great host city like the city of San Francisco for this facility, we think we're going to attract the best and the brightest from all over the world. And with the California transportation team that put this together, from the initial legislation by John Burton allowing this transfer to take place to all of the support systems and the high-speed rail authority, it's been phenomenal. But you just don't show up at a ribbon cutting. We're here largely because of the final portion that was added to this stew that we're brewing here on behalf of our future, and that was the Recovery Act. And that was the Obama administration insisting that we had to move this country forward. But in the Congress of the United States and throughout this country, there were many that said that Recovery Act is too big, it's too rich. Now, of course, a year and a half later, they're saying it should have been larger because the economy is struggling. But the fact of the matter was, the criteria for the Recovery Act and its size in the House of Representatives was the Speaker saying that this has to be a Recovery Act that can speak to today in terms of projects that are ready to deal with this economy today, but it has to be large enough to embrace the future. We have to be able to start projects today and put people to work that will embrace our economic future 25, 35, and 45 years from today. That's what this project does. That was the House environment. Then you had to go to the Senate.
I just wanted to make sure you understood what I was talking about. And there was Barbara Boxer as chair of the Public Works and the Environment Committee that again had to go through and explain that we're not building for today. We're building for tomorrow. Yes, we'll put the shovels in the ground, we'll hire the building trades, we'll put people to work now, but we've got to go to the future. We've got to address the problems that the mayor addressed, that the governor and the legislature have talked about in California's transportation project. And that brings us here today because of her success in selling her Senate colleagues, that's how we had to address this to get this nation moving again. And it's very exciting to work with the Speaker Pelosi and Senator Boxer, Senator Feinstein on these projects of huge regional ramifications. We've always believed that California has been on the cutting edge, and being first here today in this great city with this leadership is once again the proof that we're on the cutting edge. And thank you very much to a visionary Secretary of Transportation who recognized all of that.
Thank you, Congressman Miller. And now it's with great pleasure that I'm going to introduce Senator Barbara Boxer, who from the very beginning has worked tirelessly on behalf of the Transbay project, and along with Speaker Pelosi and Senator Feinstein worked very hard to deliver the $400 million in ERA funding so that we could build out the rail levels as part of phase 1 of the project. A forceful advocate for families, children, consumers, the environment, and her state of California, Senator Barbara Boxer became a United States Senator in January 1993 after 10 years of service in the House of Representatives. Elected to a third term in 2004, she received more than 6.9 million votes, the highest total for any Senate candidate in American history. A leader on environmental protection, Senator Boxer is the first woman to chair the United States Senate's Environment and Public Works Committee. On the committee, she advocates forcefully for clean air and water and the fight against global warming. In addition, Senator Boxer also serves on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and Commerce Committee, is the Democratic Chief Deputy Whip, and serves on the Democratic Policy Committee's Committee on Oversight and Investigations. She has been married to Stuart Boxer for 45 years, has 2 children, 48 years, I stand corrected, has 2 children, a daughter-in-law, and 2 grandsons, an inspiration to all of us here today, Senator Barbara Boxer.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. If I didn't have this box, honest to God, I couldn't see anybody. So here I am, and I still have to go on my toes. I have to update that bio because now we've been married 48 years, but who's counting? I also have a granddaughter. So we have to update that bio. Thank you so much for that introduction. I want to say, just looking at the people on the stage, I think half of you have been in my office in Washington speaking to me in detail about the need to move forward on high-speed rail and this Transbay terminal. And here we are. In 2017, we're going to see the Grand Central Station of the West. And I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud. And I have to say, as we all focus so hard on creating jobs, that this Transbay Transit Center project is quite simply a bullet train for job creation. The first phase, 48,000 jobs. 48,000 families will have that security. And the entire project will employ 125,000 Californians. It's so important in these tough times to get behind projects like these that are so necessary and produce so many jobs. And the center will be so much more than a transit hub, as Mayor Newsom has said. It's going to be an asset to this city, to this neighborhood, and to the entire Bay Area. I'm very proud to have worked with Speaker Pelosi because, let me tell you, without Speaker Pelosi, nothing gets done. And with her, everything gets done. And she's proven that, bringing the House back to vote to put teachers back on the job so our kids have the teachers in the classroom. But I digress. Senator Feinstein, my partner in all of these great things, and Congressman Miller, my pal, my buddy, and my friend. And I have to say, I don't know how many times John Burton called or wrote about this to all of us, but we thank you for your persistence, John, on this. Let me just take a moment to thank a person I've called one of the greatest secretaries of transportation, if not the greatest, Ray Lahood. I just need you to know about this man. He knows I feel this way about him. Ray Lahood, when you call Ray Lahood, you don't make small talk, you just get to the point. And believe me, he knew about this because I remember I was with him when we were announcing some other grants, and he said, "Don't worry, I know about the Transbay Terminal." In other words, Barbara, you don't have to talk to me about it one more time. He is a great hero to me because he shows that you can work across party lines. And Lord knows, we need to work across party lines, particularly in times like these. So I'm going to thank just one more group of people, and then I'll sit down. And it's a very large group of people, the people of the state of California who voted for nearly $10 billion in state bonds to support high-speed rail. That is really fabulous. That's why our state is so great, because of the people of our state. And we're going to keep our state moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Boxer. It is an absolute honor and joy to introduce our next speaker, Secretary Ray Lahood. And I couldn't agree more with Senator Boxer. Secretary Lahood has just been an absolute inspiration to me. He's a breath of fresh air. He's just a man of great courage and vision. When Ray Lahood became the 16th Secretary of Transportation on January 23, 2009, he brought with him a vision of transforming communities through transportation. In nominating him, then President-elect Obama said, "Few understand our infrastructure challenge better than the outstanding public servant that I'm asking to lead the Department of Transportation." As Secretary of Transportation, Ray Lahood leads an agency with more than 55,000 employees and a $70 billion budget that oversees air, maritime, and surface transportation missions. Today, he is paving the way for sustainable and livable projects to move forward, such as the Transbay Transit Center. Mr. Secretary, thank you for everything you are doing to improve the safety and movement of people and goods by land, air, and sea, and for your support of the Transbay project.
Thank you, Maria. Well, good morning, San Francisco. I am delighted to be here. I asked the mayor, well, let me put it this way. I've been to a lot of events, and I judge an event by how many people show up and how many media show up. This is a big deal today in San Francisco, I can tell you that. This is huge. Now, I asked the mayor who all these people were. I hope this doesn't detract from votes for your lieutenant governor position. He said half of them are consultants that are working on this project, so I hope that doesn't hurt you, Mayor. He also told me that when Mayor Brown shows up, this is the only city in America that has two mayors at one time. I hope you're not offended at that either. Those are two of the funniest lines. You ought to elect the guy lieutenant governor just for his humor. He knows how to make the secretary happy. I want to say, first of all, we would not be here today if it weren't for the extraordinary courage of the delegation from California, led by the Speaker, who within 1 month of being sworn in, 1 month of the President being sworn in, passed a $780 billion economic recovery plan. They cast the courageous votes that made this money available for California and for San Francisco. Thank you. It would not have happened without that bill. And Speaker Pelosi pushed it through with the help of her delegation. Senator Boxer pushed it through with the help of her partner, Senator Feinstein. You have a great delegation. They know how to put people to work. They know what it takes to put people to work. And the economic recovery plan, of which our department got $48 billion, now we are going around the country making these kinds of announcements. We would not be here today if it weren't for their courageous vote. So we are grateful to them. Let's thank them again for what they did for America, to put Americans to work. Now, we wouldn't be talking about high-speed rail. People who've been to Europe or Asia and ridden high-speed rail, like many of you have, come back to America and say, why don't we have high-speed rail in America? Because we've never made the investment. That's why. This year, we had 8 billion times more money than we've ever had for high-speed rail, thanks to President Obama's vision to connect America with high-speed intercity rail. That's his vision. And it's also Vice President Biden's vision. That money would not have been put in there if the President, his Chief of Staff, the Speaker, and others said, we need to get into the high-speed rail business in America. There's only one way to do it: make the investment. This year we will have $2.5 billion additional dollars. I have no doubt you'll all be competing for that here in San Francisco and around California. The third thing I want to say, the reason California got the most money, because you all have your act together. You've been working on it for a decade. You've all pulled together. So it's not only the governor, and I agree with what Senator Boxer said, the people deserve a lot of credit to go to the polls and to cast votes to raise taxes in order to develop the kind of infrastructure that high-speed rail. The people deserve a lot of credit, but it takes great leadership, and you have it in California. California got the most high-speed rail money because you have your act together and you want high-speed rail. You've been working on it for a decade, and now California is way ahead of the curve when it comes to high-speed rail. You just are, and that's why I'm here today. Fourthly, when this bill passed, the first person to call me was my friend, someone who I served with, someone who I have the utmost respect for, Speaker Pelosi. She said, I want you in my office. I know where her office is at. And I went to her office. She said, only thing I want you to do is make sure, it's got to be done the right way. We're not cutting any corners. I want to make sure that we do what we can to make this Transbay project possible. By the book. Those were her words, by the book. And then about, not every day, but once a week, my phone would ring. It would be Speaker Pelosi. How are we doing on Transbay? Thanks to the work of her staff and our staff and the people here in California, we are here today because of that kind of leadership. So, Speaker, thank you for really holding our feet to the fire on this and making this happen. And I will tell you that Senator Boxer was also very tenacious on this also. But I've met with a lot of members of your delegation. And so, as a result of that, we're making this great announcement today, and we're launching this very, very important project, the first in the state. The governor and his team have been terrific. The Transbay people have been terrific. You got your act together here in California. And as usual, California is way ahead of the curve. So I'm delighted to be here. Everything has already been said. Just about everybody has said it. I've said what I wanted to say. Congratulations, California. Congratulations to the governor, to the delegation, to the speaker. You all are in the catbird seat because of the kind of leadership you have in your state, and I'm delighted to be here to be a part of it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Now it's with really an overwhelming joy and honor that I introduce Speaker Pelosi, who has been a role model and inspiration for me and countless women across the country. Congresswoman Pelosi has represented California's 8th District in the House of Representatives since 1987. Speaker Pelosi is in her second term as Speaker of the House of Representatives, having made history in 2007 when she was elected first woman to serve as Speaker of the House. Job creation has been Speaker Pelosi's top priority for San Francisco. She has worked to transfer Treasure Island from the Navy, bring significant federal investments to Clean Hunters Point, and transforming the Transbay Transit Center into a modern multimodal facility. Speaker Pelosi provided the first seed money, in fact, to the Transbay project over 12 years ago that allowed us to start the planning process to get to this point. And she has consistently over the years worked tirelessly on behalf of the Transbay project, culminating in the commitment of $400 million in Recovery Act funds. Working in partnership with President Barack Obama, Speaker Pelosi has focused on creating American jobs and strengthening the economy to move America in a new direction. Under her strong leadership, Congress passed and the President signed tough Wall Street reform legislation to rein in big banks and protect consumers. Historic health care reform is her proudest achievement, and she continues to lead on energy security to create jobs, combat climate change, and transition America to a clean energy economy. Thank you, Speaker Pelosi, for everything you've done for the country.
Thank you. Thank you. It's still morning. Good morning. Thank you all very much. Thank you all very much. I accept your kind reception on behalf of the members of Congress who worked so hard to make this day possible, the role that we played. You've heard from Congressman Miller on behalf of our California delegation. Of course, we're very proud and honored to work with our former colleague, great leader in the Senate, Senator Barbara Boxer, whose leadership was instrumental in making today possible, and so much else that is good for our country, and working with Senator Feinstein. I think we all have a very good team. Maria, thank you for your leadership as director of the Transbay Joint Powers Authority. We're all very proud of your work. Nat Ford, Mayor Newsom. Well, I just want to acknowledge how proud I am to be on the program with these people, because while they said a few words, their presence is fraught with so much meaning. As Barbara said, they're in our offices all the time, relentlessly pursuing the goal of what we have come here to celebrate. Anaheim Mayor Kurt Pringle, thank you for your wonderful leadership. You know, I think, how much we all enjoy working with you. The mayor put everything in perspective for us, including the role of Willie Brown. And the approximate time of his arrival, which was almost exact, aren't we proud of our mayor? He understands what this means for our community and has taken us to the place we are today. When the secretary talks about my calling him regularly, that's because that call follows a regular call that I received from Senator John Burton. How is it coming? How is it coming? And of course, from Senator Boxer as well. This was is a priority for us. Let me talk about Secretary Lahood. He has been a colleague to many of us in the Congress, to George, to Barbara for a little while. And then she moved on to the Senate, and I served with him for a long time. When he became the Secretary of Transportation, it was no surprise to us. He shared a representation of Illinois with the President when the President was Senator from Illinois. He served as a great leader on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, so we knew full well his knowledge of the issues, the possibilities, and the opportunities for the future. He knew about infrastructure and transportation as being job creators, about improving the quality of life and the air we breathe, about improving the quality of life in terms of keeping people a shorter time in their cars, putting them in mass transit so they had more time with their families. He knew about moving people and product to work. He understood that this was not only about infrastructure, it was about jobs for the future that make our communities better. So when he went to become the secretary, he had all of that experience. He had the respect on both sides of the aisle in Congress of his colleagues. And most importantly, he had the confidence of the great President of the United States, Barack Obama. Barack Obama, trust Ray Lahood. One other person who isn't here that I want to acknowledge is Jerry Brown, because this has been, oh my gosh, for decades, an issue for Jerry Brown. So I know he's in Southern California. If this were all in place now, he probably could have been in both events, and we'll look forward to that time. It's very important to acknowledge, as the other speakers have, that for generations, San Francisco and California has stood as a beacon of innovation for the nation and the world. Yes, we salute our governor for the role he played. David, please give him our regards. I'm sorry he couldn't be with us, but also the people of California. Every manifestation of our state, whether it's the people who vote, the local and regional authorities that participated, the elected officials, every manifestation of California agreed that this was a priority. When the Secretary says we had our act together, Mr. Secretary, we've been ready for a long time. We've been ready. And what made such a big difference, the catalyst that what tipped it all over was, of course, the vision and leadership of President Barack Obama and the courage to go forward with this American Reinvestment and Recovery Act, which has saved or created millions of jobs and now so many more in our state. We here are ready because we have been the bastion of creativity and entrepreneurial thinking. We've embraced what's possible in technology and science, clean energy, and essential to all of that under George Miller's leadership, education. California, in our view, has always led the way, and our great city of San Francisco has led the charge to a future of prosperity founded in the drive, determination, and the spirit of our workers. And I, too, want to salute the building trades for the work that they will play in making this dream come true. Today, in breaking ground on the Transbay Transit Center, we are opening a new chapter in the history of progress. We are coming together to create jobs and revitalize our economy to make San Francisco once again a national model for economic development. We were chosen, not that there wasn't a great deal of competition, but because we were a model, a good example, a project of national significance that we would like others to follow. Maybe not exactly the same way, but a model of entrepreneurial thinking and creativity with our eye on the future. In breaking ground for the Transbay Transit Center, we are laying the first building blocks for what Barbara Boxer called the Grand Central Station of the West, connecting cities and communities throughout the region and across the state. It will be a crossroads of commerce, jobs, transit, and retail. It will increase public transit options, reduce congestions on our roads, and cut carbon emissions. This project represents the best product of a strong public-private partnership, a thriving center for economic activity, a center for good-paying jobs, and a better quality of life for local workers and families. It's about sustainability, and the mayor spoke to that so eloquently, and he's been a leader on that issue. Increasing access to quality public transportation and improving San Francisco's infrastructure have long been among the top priorities for our delegation in Congress. That's why we have fought to secure critical investments from the federal government for Transbay, not just the money today, but let's talk about that. The Recovery Act, $400 million in funding, allowing us to put people to work sooner in good-paying jobs and reducing the overall cost of the project, because it's sooner, reducing the cost of the overall project by $100 million, Mr. Secretary. Starting in 1998, more than $60 million in designated federal transportation funds, getting us ready for today. And this year, thank you, Mr. Secretary, again, a $171 million loan from the Department of Transportation. I'd like to hear some applause for 170. Out of these investments and partnerships with private businesses and local and state government, Transbay will create at least 48,000 jobs, as Barbara mentioned, the Senator mentioned, over a 7-year construction period, including as many as 500 jobs just for the rest of this year to get started. When completed, it will boost the gross regional product by $80 billion and increase personal income in the area by $1 billion. Transbay's success will mark a significant step forward for the dream of high-speed rail across California, and it is central to our work to invest in our nation's infrastructure and rebuild and renew America. It's like a makeover. It's like a makeover for California. In this Congress, we have made an unprecedented commitment to high-speed rail, creating jobs and connecting communities. The Recovery Act had $8 billion, including, as the Secretary said, $2.34 billion for California. The budget for fiscal year 2010, the President's budget, has another $2.5 billion. Projects like the Transbay Transit Center are part of our broader vision for a growing, thriving, dynamic economy. It embodies the spirit and goals of what the President and Congress are putting forth in our Make It in America strategy. Manufacture it in America, make it in America, but enabling people to make it in America. And that's because we know that when we make it in America, we create jobs and lead the world economy. Our manufacturing agenda will close loopholes for encouraging jobs to go overseas, and that's how we can then reinvest that money into infrastructure in America. Create new American jobs, inventing clean energy technologies, and building the wind turbines and solar panels the world will buy. The ideas spring from here, and then the manufacturing takes place someplace else, not under our Making It in America agenda. The ideas are here, the innovation is here, the manufacturing is here, the innovation is here. We are there to compete, to win, to prevail in the global economy, and all of that Make It in America starts by building our infrastructure, and that's what we're here today. And one of our goals in putting this forth, and it's a very specific and concerted effort, is to make sure that we have jobs for all the purposes I mentioned, for our returning veterans to work in clean energy jobs for a future that is worthy of their sacrifice, for our veterans. So, Secretary Lahood, please give the President our appreciation, our thanks, our gratitude. When he became President, he stood on the steps of the Capitol and he asked for swift, bold action now to create jobs for the future and education for the 21st century. He said that we will use the soil and the wind and the sun to run our cars and fuel our factories, that he wanted to build an infrastructure, a green infrastructure future. You know the list. It goes on and on. Health care for all Americans as a right, not a privilege. 1 week and 1 day after that speech, the House of Representatives passed the Recovery Act. 1 week and 1 day. Because we were ready and had worked with the President in advance with his vision and his leadership. The Senate took up the bill, and as the Secretary said, just a matter of weeks later, it was signed into law. And here we are today because of it. So thank the President and tell them that as we break ground on another step forward for the workers and families of San Francisco, and the Bay Area and California. Because of the work that is done here and the leadership of President Obama, our hopes are riding on the future. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This concludes the speaking portion of today's program. I would like to invite our speakers to join me for the historic groundbreak. If you could please exit the stage, and from there in front, we will be provided ceremonial shovels so we can get the project underway. So if the speakers could exit right and left and just join me in the front. Thank you.
Hey, work. No, you got it. Speaker.
One full time.